What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to another episode of Ripped, Rattled, and Rose podcast. It is your most gracious host, Rose. I'm kidding. And today we're going to be talking about mental health and how not utilizing your voice can affect you mentally, emotionally, and physically, how it affects other relationships, and some of the dangers that's associated with it. Now, my disclaimer, I believe that mental health is important for everyone, women, men, children, everyone. But I'll specifically be talking about how mental health presents in women. One, because I am a woman. Two, I can speak on my own experiences candidly. And three, I'd rather give men the liberty of speaking on their own mental health and their experiences and how they process, because all I can go by is what I've read or what someone has told me. When I'm speaking about mental health concerning women, I'm speaking specifically about some of my own issues and how I overcame them. And honestly, the reason why I wanted to do a podcast is because I wanted to stop this narrative of this, that you're stoic and you're strong because you know how to keep secrets. Because I disagree with that. And I understand that that's subjective. But I think that there is another level of humility that you have to say, hey, I'm struggling. I don't really know what's going on with me, but I need some help. In this day and age, it's almost like pretending is the standard. And the better you pretend, the more stoic you are. And I don't wish to participate in that because I tried it. And it was dangerous. And for some people, it ended up horribly, completely horribly. If you listened to the first episode, you would have heard me make mention of some of the emotional and mental barriers that I had to combat growing up. If you didn't listen to the first episode, I recommend that you do that. It was good. Check it out. But I spoke about how I lived in a somewhat chaotic home, and one of my coping mechanisms was to emotionally detach from the situation in order to be able to survive whatever storm that I was experiencing at that time. And if you think about what emotional detachment means, the dictionary explains that it's a psychological condition in which a person is not able to fully engage with their feelings or the feelings of others. And I spoke about how, when I lived in a home and things were going on, I realized that if I just remove my emotion from the situation, that I could tolerate it or I could survive those moments. And those moments, that probably was very appropriate. But it wasn't once I started to grow in age, because I was not growing mentally or emotionally, which made all of my relationships difficult. Work relationship, friend relationship, family relationship, romantic relationships. All relationships were difficult for me because I could not express myself. I didn't know how to do it. And I was also ashamed to do it because nobody around me was doing it. I am big on promoting healing and honesty and transparency, because when you don't heal, you go out into the world and you project your wounds on other people, and it's infectious, it's toxic, it's contagious, because it's like poisonous to you, and then you go out and you spread it to other people, and now you're making them sick because nobody's healed. And we just keep doing it, and generation after generation, we don't understand why things aren't getting better. We don't understand why in 1920 grandma and them made decisions and we weren't even there to see it. And then here in this century, we're making the same choices and we're completely oblivious about what it is. And there is a lack thereof of healing. When I was preparing for this episode, there were memories that I had completely forgotten about that flooded my brain and just reminded me that I am still unpacking a lot of things. And that's why when you heal, I think some people assume that it's a one-time thing, and no, it's a lifetime thing. Every day you are having an opportunity to not recoil or not go back to your old self. And some days it'll be better than others, but definitely need to know that you don't say, oh, I'm over that and that's the end of it. It's not. So mental health, by definition, is a person's condition with regard to their psychological and emotional well-being. And psychological health is a problem-solving mode of behavior and the ability to perceive one's environment with relative freedom from their need distortion. Emotional health is how we think and feel. It's about our sense of well-being, our ability to cope with life events, and how we acknowledge our own emotions as well as those of others. I had to have therapy. I like therapy, honestly. It is extremely beneficial. It is an opportunity to learn about yourself, and especially when you're talking to someone that does not have a biased perception of you, or they're saying things geared towards what you want to hear opposed to what will stretch you, even if it's uncomfortable, for your growth. I said in the first episode, when I was pregnant with my first son, that my mother would ask me how I feel. And I would always say that I'm okay and that I wasn't being deceptive. I didn't feel anything. So I'm getting information for this episode, and I'm like, well, let me make sure that I'm giving like clear, practical wording that anybody could understand. So I looked up repressed emotions and suppressed because I wanted to make sure that I was not getting them twisted. And repressed emotions are feelings that you unconsciously avoid. And you feel numb or blank. You feel nervous, stressed a lot of times. You're not sure why. You have a tendency to forget things. And you are uncomfortable when other people are telling you about their feelings. That was me. Like, don't let nobody start crying in front of me. I started pacing back and forth like, oh my goodness, okay, what am I supposed to do? And I laugh about it now because you have to laugh to keep from crying, but you know what you know. I had no idea at that time in my life that I was repressing anything, completely oblivious. And still to this day, there are like flashbacks where I'll remember something and it'll kind of make me say, ooh, okay. And then suppressed emotions is when you actively push uncomfortable thoughts, feelings, or memory out of your consciousness. And these people hate to be asked how they feel. They struggle with emotional intimacy, always fine, rarely get emotional, have extreme mood swings, deny your problem, and you hold grudges. Okay, so if you wanted a snapshot into my childhood up into adulthood, that would be that. That if someone asked me about my feelings, I would get off the subject. I don't want to talk about it. I struggled with emotional intimacy. I would have these relationships with guys, and I liked them for a moment, but I couldn't be like fully committed to it, or I couldn't connect to them in the way that they seemed to have connected with me. And when the relationship would end, they would be having a hard time to like move forward, and I would be having a difficult time remembering the relationship or them, even if it was something that lasted for a couple years. And we would brag or like laugh about it being like my cutoff game being strong. But in the back of my mind, I always knew that it was dysfunctional. I didn't know what the verbiage was, and I didn't know what the remedy was to stop doing it. But I did know that it was dysfunctional. I even went as far to go back into history and decide when did it become a badge of honor for us not to talk or express our emotions or to put on. And what I came up with was slavery. In slavery, we learned that it was better to keep secret if you could read or write, because you could be killed. If they wanted to praise God and sing whatever songs, that had to be kept in secret. And when you think about some of the things that were endured. And again, it was bad for everyone, but I am speaking specifically about women so that we can follow the origin back to see why this thing even, where it came from, who birthed it. And if it was dysfunctional then it's probably very, very dysfunctional now. Think about it. The woman that has been in the field working tirelessly, doing manual labor, and then raising, nursing, feeding her own children, as well as whoever the master was, their children as well, and then being raped and beaten and having to hold in your groans as you see your child or your husband or both being whipped, beaten, killed, or sold. And the next day you are forced to get up and tend to everything that you've always had to attend to. And you have to do it in a manner in which you don't have an attitude or you don't cry or anything. And it was just completely unfair and dysfunctional. And I don't want to participate in anything like that ever again. And I know it's to each his own, but I'm saying if you want to heal, you can. We don't have to do things because it's always been done. And a lot of times we don't even know why we're doing things or where it started. Like if we look at the origin, we would say this probably no. Like, yeah, no, thank you. They didn't have much of a choice then, but today I do. And today I'm choosing not to participate in that anymore because it doesn't do anything for me. You end up being a 40, 50-year-old human being with 15, 16-year-old emotions. And one of the first parts of healing is identification. You have to identify the what, why, and who. So I said also in my first episode that there was a large part of my life where I contemplated hurting myself or taking my life. I was depressed and no one knew it, including me. And I didn't know it because I knew very little about depression. I had this textbook imagery in my mind where depression meant that you cried all day, that you never left the house, that you don't bathe or comb your hair, and that you sleep all day. And those are parts of what depression entails, but it's so much more. You know, it's a loss in sexual desire, changes in appetite. So it don't necessarily mean that you're starving. You can also be overeating. And just like you're sleeping all the time, you may not sleep at all. You may be agitated all the time. And you may feel tired. And then there's this feeling of worthlessness and guilt. And you have a difficult time thinking, concentrating, or making decisions. And then the ultimate thing is the attempt to actually try to take yourself out of this world. And also busyness. In order for me to quiet the negative things that I had in my mind, I was super busy because I didn't want to hear the voices. I didn't want to think about it. I had to keep going. And I think that is the danger, and thinking that success means that you're okay. It's not true. It's not. If you raise a child and they're great, you can brag on their GPA and all of their accomplishment. How is their heart? How is their mind doing? How do they communicate? Do they communicate? Are they always okay? Because nobody is always okay, but there's a shame, the shame that's attached to not being okay, because every single body is pretending like they are. Everybody's photographing and recording their best moments. And I'm not saying that you should broadcast what you're struggling with and on a public forum. But I'm saying that there should be 1 or 2, 3, 4 good people that you can have a good cry with, that you can be completely honest and transparent with, that you may hear a stranger struggling and feeling like they're the only person that's going through it. And you take the initiative to say, sweetheart, this too shall pass. I felt like that. I was like that. I experienced that. These are the things that I did to get better. That whole thing like, oh, it gets greater later. That's cute. How? Can you show me how? Can we do that? Yeah, because I would love to know. I have my pen and my pencil and I am taking notes. How do it get greater later? What am I supposed to do? Please. And then I had never in my life heard of anxiety until I was about 14 or 15 years old. And I just heard of the term. I didn't really know what anxiety was. I just knew that I was nervous a lot and I worried about things all the time. What if this happens? What if that happens? Like, what is this? But what is anxiety? Feeling nervous, restless, or tense. Having a sense of impending danger or doom. Having increased heart rate. Hyperventilating. Sweating. Feeling tired. Trouble concentrating. What in the world? Do we say all of this? Like anxiety, when you think of anxiety, you think of someone pacing back and forth, having a panic attack, breathing in the bag. That's it. No, that's not just it. That's some of it. And it's wonderful. You know, in the nursing field, when someone comes in and their blood pressure is high or they have a wound that is warm and is swollen, yes, there's an indication that there is a pending infection. But I need to get to the root of it. We always want to address the symptoms, but we have to address the root. We have to get to the bottom of it so that when you pull it up from the root, it can't come back. It's a lot less likely to come back. But how do you do it without identification? You have to be able to identify what that is. And I'm not going to hold you. I'm telling you, a lot of times when you hear people that's being like extremely judgmental or, you know, having these opinions about everything and everyone, that's how they feel about themselves. Because when I felt the worst about myself, I could not give other people grace. And why? Because I could not give myself grace. And if they seemed like they were not struggling as much as I was, then I was a little bit resentful. Like, what? But, you know, the sad thing is, like, a lot of us are battling the same thing. We're sitting right next to each other and we're all talking about things that don't matter and nobody is getting better. Nobody is getting better because we outright refuse to talk about the elephant in the room. And I've had it. I've had it up to my eyebrows. You know, I was reading, the CDC said that women are twice more likely to have depression than men. And why? Why? Because that depression is masked with PMS symptoms or menopause. So we just chalk it up to, I'm just moody because my period is coming. Or I just feel like this because it's a hormonal thing. And sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. If it's a hormonal thing, it's supposed to last for a few days and then it should go. When those hormones are completely out of whack and you keep feeling like that, that needs to be investigated. You have to find a safe place. You have to stop worrying about what people are going to think too. People are going to talk about you anyway. You could be doing the best things. You can have the best heart. You can have the best intention. If a person wants to perverse that, they're going to do it anyway. So you cannot shrink back or dim your light because it makes other people uncomfortable. You know, you kick the dust off your shoes. You take your peace, your wisdom, and you take it to someone that actually appreciates it. Don't force it on anyone. When people are ready, they're ready. Because when I didn't want to heal, when I wasn't ready, when I was justifying, when I was blaming everybody else, there was nothing that anybody could say to me to change my mind until I got ready. You know, and if we just threw a Bible scripture in there, we would Ephesians 4:23, to be made new in the attitude of your minds. When your mind is made new, everything is made new. It could be the same people, same places, same situation, new perspective, game changer. That is a game changer. I spent a lot of time, especially after the second relationship that I had, like the real relationship that I had after my kid's father. That relationship was the relationship that let me know that emotional pain can cause physical pain. I was on cloud 9 in a sky. I had been taken all the way up to the moon and dropped completely. And it was done so unexpectedly for me that I didn't even have time to brace that. I didn't have time to put my hand down and to soften the fall. I hit the pavement very, very hard. And when I say that I was sick to my stomach, you hear people say, oh, love sick. And I used to judge people like, girl, but never. Yes, that was a thing. Eat something and I threw up. Hair falling out. Skinny. Can't sleep. all of this, but I don't even have the knowledge to think that you need help. Ma'am, you need some help. You need to go sit down and you need to talk to someone. You have to. And then like having kids young and not feeling worthy of that. Then I have codependent relationships. I have relationships where I need someone's validation. I would make a decision and I would, kind of turn around, see if my mother was in favor of it. If she wasn't, then I felt sick about the choice. Do I do it? Then I become a people pleaser. I'm giving too much. I have the inability. Well, I can't say that I wasn't a trusting person. I've never been super suspicious of people. And I'm glad. That seems to be exhausting to always think that someone is trying to do something to you. But I definitely push other people away to avoid rejection. Even if I wanted to connect, I did not know how. I didn't. At that time in my life, honestly, I don't think that I stayed at any job past a year or two. Because I'm emotional. I have arrested development emotionally. I am a child in a woman's body. I don't like to be corrected because correction sounds like criticism to me. I can be told one thing, and if I didn't like the tone of it or if I didn't like the way it made me feel, not mature enough to have a conversation so that I have clarity and understanding and feel heard, I am bailing. I'm getting up out of this joint because those are my coping skills. I knew how to detach. I knew how to avoid. I knew how to run. That was it. Oh, I can get mad too. Like that was something that was very easy. I can get upset. But past that point, starting a conversation that could potentially be uncomfortable, never. Nope, I was a runner. But in the meantime, while I'm doing all of this running, I am dismantling relationships that could be fruitful to my life. I am being overly critical of other people because I'm overly critical of myself. I became a lone wolf. I became a person that, I just like to be alone. When in truth, I just could not. I didn't even like looking at myself in the mirror. I don't want to sit around anybody else. I didn't. And I just wanted to blend. I wanted to be a chameleon. I'll come in here and I'll sit in the back of the room. I definitely don't need to be the smartest person in the room or doing all the talking. I just want to have several seats and hope that nobody notices me back here. But that's not healthy. And I thought that I was functioning, but I was not. And that's where I believe the drinking came in. There's self-medication because how long can you live like that healthily? Our bodies are our bodies, and whether it be a physical thing or emotional thing, what goes in must come out. So if I eat something, that's not going to stay inside of me. That's coming out of me. And if there's things that's inside of me, if I'm stuffing, if there's all these emotional poisons and offenses and hurts that I've never talked about, all of these grudges that I'm holding on people that don't even know that I'm mad. I'm the only person that knows what the issue is because I don't have the emotional maturity to address it and then address it in a way where I'm talking about how I feel opposed to accusing other people of doing something. Because just because I feel a way does not necessarily make it true. Feelings need to be addressed and investigated, but feelings are not fact. Because if my feelings is rooted from a broken place, I'm always going to accuse people of doing something. I'm always going to assume that you mean the worst. I'm always going to assume that you want something from me. Healthy people can have healthy dialogue. You can kind of check your emotional compass out based on the kind of dialogue that you can have with other people. Do you feel, and none of us like to be corrected. Like, it's not a fun thing to do. Nobody's going to, hey, you tell me something about me that you don't like. Like, no, nobody does that. But I will, because I understand that I can't see myself. I do ask people that is around me, well, how am I presenting? Because a lot of times we think one thing and other people are experiencing something else. So whether it be coworkers or people that I have to supervise, what is that like for you? How did that make, like, tell me if I'm doing something to you that you don't like, you don't appreciate, or it makes you feel a kind of way, tell me so I can correct the behavior. But when you don't communicate that to people, then you have offenses and they don't know. And then you don't give them an opportunity to correct the behavior or hear your heart. So then everybody is, disposable. Don't matter. I'll throw anybody away. It makes me absolutely no sense. When you don't verbalize what you need, there's more chances for miscommunications, dysfunctional relationship patterns, broken relationships, mistrust, all of this because we don't know the verbiage to say that hurt my feelings. That's like blasphemy. Hurt me? I'm a whole gangster. I don't get hurt out here. Like, no, you're a whole human. You got hurt. It's okay. It happens to the best of us. CDC also states that women are more likely to experience depression and anxiety because there's an unequal power and status. Women are more likely than men to have poverty, or we might have the same job and we are getting paid less, or we know that we're doing more than we're supposed to do, but we're scared to ask for more because that's not what we do. And then there's this work overload. So you go to work and you give your all to the job because you want to be effective and efficient. And then you go home and you need to be this superb wife and then mother. But I'm just trying to see, like, what day and time are you just you, a person, just a human? Because that's healthy. And back when I grew up, I never heard parents or mothers say that they needed a break from their children. But I do. I most certainly do. And there is, sometimes people try to mommy shame you. Fine. And this is, again, why we have to get well, so we don't let other people influence us by their own opinion. Like, if my needing a break from my children don't have nothing to do with you, and if you're not relieving me of them, mind your business. If you don't want to do it, then don't do it. But I have every single right to have self-care. I can't show up in all of these roles and be effective. I can't pour from an empty cup. So at some point, I got to take a few days off. And I need to be able to do that without guilt or shame. And that is still that's still hard for me. Like, I can order something for the kids. I'm shopping out of control. I go in the store for me and I'm like, do I really need this? Like, I don't really need this. And it's like, why? Why? Yes. So, you have to decide what kind of mother you want to be, and you have to decide what kind of wife you want to be. So if I don't want to be like the woman on the Brady Bunch, so what? I don't want to be like that. If, like, whatever I desire to do and I'm staying true to myself and it's not abusive to anyone, I choose to do that because it's healthy for me. I am not going to be running around here driving myself crazy to appease people that don't have any clue who they are, what they like, where they're going, why they do what they do. No, it's just easier for you to look at me and judge me than yourself. I know, I've tried it. I did it. And it doesn't change anything about you. It doesn't. And then, like, the last thing that we don't necessarily talk about is that depression and anxiety, stress, they have physical ailments that's attached to them. The CDC also spoke about how depression and stress and anxiety is linked to cancer, diabetes, asthma, cardiovascular disease, arthritis, gastrointestinal disease, stomach ache, indigestion, heartburn, nausea, vomiting, pain, frequent infections, muscle pain, headaches, insomnia, restlessness. And you trying to tell me we don't need no counselor? We don't need help? We do. Mental health is important. It is important even in the religious sector. Can we please, and I mean please, can we please stop telling people that they are not faithful believers because they want to go to therapy, or because maybe they need a little help with their anxiety, or because maybe they need some medicine for a little while? At what cost are we trying to save face? What cost? Like, I'm going to shame you for wanting to have help, and then if the unthinkable happens, the unimaginable happens, now I'm left thinking I should have just listened. I should have let you get some help. I should have allowed you to express yourself. I should have allowed you to tell your story. Because the reality of it is, everything that we do in life is bigger than us. All of it. better than, we're so self-absorbed. Me. I. What? Great. You're wonderful. You're great. You're like a shiny new penny. But the reality of it is this: nothing that we've gone through is for us. And there's nothing in this world that has happened now that did not happen before. There is a person out here with a remedy to your issue. But how do they know what that is when you refuse to open your mouth, when you refuse to talk, when you have allowed shame and guilt to put you in bondage? And a lot of us have the keys in our pocket for freedom, and we won't take them out. We won't stick them in a lock, and we won't twist it. My hope and my prayer is that we completely dismantle the suffering in silence, the badge of honor of the strong woman being stepped on without even saying, ouch. If it hurt, it hurt. And no, we don't wallow in self-pity. We acknowledge the emotion. We get to the root cause of it. We start doing the things that lessen that so that we can heal properly, so that we don't keep on having these vicious cycles. Because if I am still moving from a place of abandonment and rejection, then that means I'm going to be a people pleaser and I'm going to be codependent. So that means that I don't have a standard, and I'm going to allow someone else to tell me what to do, how to love. And next thing I know, I'm accepting things that I don't even deserve. I'm doing things that I don't even like, that don't even serve me. Because this is the blueprint. I don't even know who wrote it. I never even flipped the page open to see who was the author behind here. I encourage everyone to do assessments on themselves on a regular basis, assessments on the people that's around you on a regular basis, assessments of what you're feeding yourself, what you're telling yourself on a regular basis, because whatever you believe, it grows. It grows. You know, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. That's Proverbs 4:23. The issues that you have in your heart, even when you don't say it, it presents in every relationship and how you show up in the world. So while we think that we're doing a wonderful job, and some of us pretend better than others, it shows. It absolutely, positively shows. I've made a commitment to myself and to God that I'm not hiding anything. That if whatever I went through can be keys for someone else, I'm telling it. All of it. I will no longer allow myself to be bound by fear and shame and the opinions of other people. I won't. No, not going to do it. Because those things used to have me. No, but they are literally, they're crates. And that's part of my story, to tell you that I'm human too. And if I can get out that hole, then you can too. Oftentimes we go through something and we get out of it and we act like we've never gone through anything. We act like that we've gotten out the boat and walked on water, and everybody else around us is the problem, and we're baby Jesus. The furthest thing from the truth. Even with my children had a young mother. They have every single right to talk about that and how their experience was. I can offer them clarity and understanding if they want that. But my children are not mandated to keep my secrets, especially if it makes them sick. We need to heal. We have to normalize talking about what hurt us. And then we got to figure out, why did that bother us? And then we have to figure out, soon as you heal one thing, you realize there's something else in you that needs to be healed. And of course, we don't heal ourselves. We get professional help. And then we have a man named Jesus that heals all things. But even Jesus can't do it when you won't admit it. When you won't put all your cards on the table. He's like, okay, chase your tail. Run yourself crazy. I don't want a stroke. I don't want to have cardiovascular disease. I don't want muscle pains and tension and headaches and insomnia and restlessness. I don't want that. I want joy. I want peace that surpasses all understanding. And that don't come from pretending. I could pretend to be happy, but I can't pretend to have joy. No. Everyone's going to know that I'm being a fraud. And I'd rather not. I am so grateful of the things that I went through, because I know, based on those things, that anybody can be saved. Anybody can change. You can make up your mind that I'm doing this differently. You can write on a piece of paper what seems to be a recurrent cycle in your life. My cycles used to be to pick, and I didn't, honestly, when you don't know, you don't know, to choose someone more broken than me so that they become my project. And then midway through, I don't want the project no more. I'm bored and I'm resentful because they're not holding up their end of the bargain. What was the bargain, Rose? You don't even know. You don't know. Like, how about we not get into another relationship until we have a clue, just a little bit? And we're always changing, so we're never going to stay the same of who we are. Because when you do that, you allow someone else to navigate your life. And sometimes if those are not divine meetings, those people derail your purpose. They delay your progress. And I just don't think that we deserve that. We healing from here on out. We ain't pretending from here on out. We're going to keep it real from here on out. We're going to share our testimonies. We're going to be honest about it. And whoever don't like it, it ain't for them. And whoever can catch it, catch it. And teach me. I'm always readily and available. What happened? What you say? There are some things that I never even would have considered until I listened to somebody else talk. I don't need to be the smartest person in the room. And I can learn from a baby, a child. When my daughter, who's 8, she can say, I don't like when you do boop because of that. I'm proud of her because it took me 30 plus years to learn how to do that. So taking care of your mental health is important. Opening up the margins of what depression and anxiety looks like is important. We ain't trying to lose nobody else in this world to something that we could have tended to or assisted or helped someone. Secrets are not a badge of honor. Secrets make you sick. And you cannot be your best self when you're pretending. God he can't save who you pretending to be. He can save the you. And once you come to know you, you're going to realize you never needed to pretend in the first place. You was dope the whole time. You were missing it. You were completely missing it. I know it. So I hope that this episode was good for you guys. I do want to be engaging. Let me know like some of the battles that you have had your own self and how you overcame, because we're not wallowing. No, we're not self-loathing. We are talking about how we conquered over a thing. And the people who we come in contact with that's going through, we're holding their hands and we're going to walk them across the street, across that pond, across the whatever, because we're going to hit the finish line together. This is not a race. Like, people are scared to share information and to work with other people because they're afraid of people becoming better than them. No. The one way that I keep myself healthy is being help to someone else. So you got to give it away, right? In order to keep it, you got to give it away. So let me know what you think of this episode. Rate it for me. Any other topics that you want me to discuss, you know where to find me. Facebook, Ripped, Rattled, and Rose. Instagram, Ripped, Rattled, and Rose. And subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ripped, Rattled, and Rose. It's your girl. I'm out.